Hello, and a very, very warm welcome to everyone. Welcome to our eighth Artist Roundtable on arts and culture in care and health institutions today. I keep admitting people, and the room is slowly but surely filling up. My name is Marie Wittig, and I work for Culture Action Europe. Here I can be assigned to our two-person culture and health department, where I work with my wonderful colleague Cornelia Kisch, who will also join us later today. Next to her, I'm very proud that I can present three very established speakers to you today. Andrew Greenwood, who is based in the Netherlands, IOANA TURCAN, who lives in Romania, and thirdly, Rebecca Swift, who is based in the UK. Naming our speakers leads me to the agenda for today's event. And let me just share my screen with you. Um, so, there we go. So we can have or go through the agenda together. So after this little introduction, I will first provide you with a quick overview of the Culture and Health Platform project. Then Andrew will share his learnings from his work with Switch to Move. Andrew is a dancer and uses movement to improve the physical and mental well-being of seniors with one or more chronic conditions such as Parkinson's, dementia, multiple sclerosis, or other illnesses which with physical and mental challenges. After a brief question and answer session, we will hear from Ioana what she can share from her work in care homes. Ioana originally studies film, but brings all kinds of art forms into care homes. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about it. And then again, after a short question and answer session, we will hear from Rebecca what she can share from her experience working for Entelechy Arts, where they produce projects which test the boundaries between art, creativity, care, well-being, and community. And then lastly, we will go into breakout rooms where you have the chance to just have a conversation in which you can share your projects, ask questions, address problems that you are facing, and hopefully learn from each other. Before we start, I just want to point out that this first part of the event is being recorded. As soon as we are done with the presentations and shift to the last session, the breakout room session, we will stop the recording. I just want to add that during the first part, only the people who are pinned, or like I was earlier, will be actually in the recording. And of course, if you want to raise a question, then your voice will be recorded as well. Okay, so let's start by providing an overview of the project. So also the framing of today's session is a bit clearer maybe. The platform originates in the Culture for Health project and its resulting Culture for Health report. And here Sarah can drop the link in the chat maybe. In short, the Culture for Health report puts together how culture and cultural activities contribute to health and well-being. And next to the Culture for Health report, I would also like to highlight the project database. And then here comes another link that started 2023 and now contains more than 800 projects. So certainly place to maybe dig into and also share your own project. So please to just explore the link that Sarah provides. And yeah, the link between these two projects is that many of the recommendations that can be found in the Culture for Health report are now implemented in the platform project. As you can see here, the platform also has a sister project, well, how we call it. While it has a similar goal, it has a slightly different approach. And if you're interested, Sarah can again provide you with a link that brings you to the CARE homepage. Um, but let me tell you what the platform, because that's what we focus on today, what the platform is and what it does. And as you can see here, it is truly an EU-wide initiative. In total, we are currently 17 members in 14 countries, and we're still growing. Each year, we are having a new member from a new country. This year, we're super happy that CultureAndHealth from Spain joined us. So I hope either your country is already present or will join us very soon. Um, and then when we go to the platform actions, here we see a number of things that we are doing. So first of all, we provide financial support for projects selected via yearly national calls. And from this year onwards, we are super proud, also a EU-wide call, which will open on the 12th of December. So you can also already mark in your calendars maybe. National calls will open in January, in a bit more than a month. We offer capacity buildings, both online and on location, on an international and local basis. We offer shadowing programs, where we invite artists to learn from each other, in other countries. Of course, we also mentor and support the artists that we selected throughout the programs. We increase their visibility via events. Our next big conference will be held in Vienna in early September. And we raise awareness in the health and social sectors for the opportunities that culture offers. We also organize these roundtable events to create the platform for exchange, to learn from each other, and to connect, really. So by now we have a full running homepage, and Sarah will share the link in the chat where you find all the events and calls, but also all our supported artists and a brief overview of their projects. So that's us for now, and I will stop. Oh, that is interesting. I would like to stop the sharing of the screen.
Mhm.
But here we go. Stop sharing. And I will invite Andrew on the stage with me because he's our first speaker for today. Fantastic. I already introduced you briefly, but if you could maybe introduce yourself as well. Thank you so much for being here, Andrew.
Of course, welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Greenwood, originally from England, but spent the last 35 years running around, doing different things. I was first a classical ballet dancer and then an international ballet master. And in the last 12 years, I've dedicated my work, my life, vocation to using my craft to assist and help educate others or share, and then work with all walks of life and different countries on using the power of dance and music to create a collective autonomy, purpose, and dignity. That's basically it. It's all about empowerment. It's not about learning dance steps. Absolutely not. These are just a medium to help people either play with their grandchildren or eat their spaghetti with pride. You know, it's all about transfer learning. That's it. And I use my medium for that. So that's me. I would normally talk on more of a positive note, but I've been asked to talk about the hardships, the struggle, the resilience, which is there, of course. And it's nice to complain a little bit and moan a little bit. So I'm going to go for it. My number one moan is that, and something we should all be aware of. I'm always preaching to the converted. It's always the converted in the room. It's really difficult to get the non-converted in there. You'll have to surprise them by being invited to an event. That's number one. Not because the non-converted are anti-arts and health. It's more that it's very difficult for them to grasp. In the 13 years that I've been here on this road, I would say that the doors have always been open, but and the main word is, oh, that's fascinating. So, but they didn't really know what to do with it. I spent my first years. I just want to show you this picture here. I don't. I'm covering it myself with the. So this is Picasso. This is before the war, and this was his, Cubism. Was his contemporary approach on his own identity. And then after the war, oh, how does it not change? I'll change it here. He went more, more comforting, more realizable, and I thought this was a really interesting kind of contrast to like how I've felt over the years and how it's developed. And that journey we all go through. I don't think there's a magic recipe for that. I think resilience is a key factor here because whatever your medium is, um, it's just so powerful. It really changes lives, it enhances lives, not just those that are experiencing some form of physical, mental, social dilemma, but those people around them. Um, yeah, my first hiccup was that I thought because I see people on the floor walking better, balancing better, more mobility, changing within an hour session, I thought that, that was the key element to getting everybody, insurance companies, governments, on board. And I created a title, and it's non-pharmacological complementary intervention. So it's non-pharmacological, it's complementary, it's not alternative, and it's an intervention, not a dance class. And I felt quite smart about that. But that didn't work. I am now an economical viable product. That works for a lot of people for very simple reasons. The healthcare, the pathologies, the dilemmas of pathologies are massive and complex, but the lack or the need of financial support or reduction in costs speaks to a lot of people. That has nothing to do with my empathy and understanding for these wonderful target groups that I work with. The next thing is, which is really such a normal thing, I think, for any creator, that self-denial, that inner struggle with one's talent, that putting worth on your head. There's nothing worse than when someone says, "Well, how valuable are you?" I mean, in yourself, that's a very difficult thing. So self-value is a key factor in this whole journey. If I'm sitting with a neurologist in the early days, I was super nervous, and then I realized that I studied just as long, worked just as hard. Um, and today, there is so much more evidence out there, evidence-based literature. There's a lot of meta studies around what we do. There's a lot of studies around what it does in the sense of the enhancement of a community, not only for those individuals, also on a government perspective. So, I mean, I would really advise you, if I may, invite you to attach yourselves to peers. So basically, I'm surrounded. I sold my soul, and I talk to everybody about the power of art and music and dance in a community. And a lot of neurologists, clinical psychologists, governmental, once they get the understanding of what you're trying to do, it's really important to have these ambassadors, because what I do on the floor is all soft and fluffy and romantic, and it has direction and all that, but that's not what we're talking about today. But because of my fluffiness and my artistic temperament, it's really good to have a band of merry men and women with very long titles behind you, advocating for you, speaking with you on the floor. Um, Talking I spent a lot of times meeting people, a lot of wasted wind. Let them experience it. That would be another key thing. You know, People are, as I say here in this slide, society is it's in fragments. We're searching, which is, of course, not the most positive thing, but it's a good thing for us. We are not healthcare. I would say that I am an enhancement of their good work, and I enhance people's well-being. Once I was working in, of course it has health benefits, loads of them, but the minute I give myself the title of a health practitioner or someone that enhances someone's health, that gets quite complex. There's a whole massive protocol. So the idea of enhancing well-being, that fits everywhere, right across the board. Um, yeah, art is not something that we use, it's something we live. Now, that's very obvious to us, but unfortunately, education is cutting it all over the place, and social media and conveniences are taking art away. So our language also has to change. It has to be more, yeah, in Dutch, like a lower threshold. When somebody's diagnosed with dementia and a neurologist says, "Oh, you should dance." Yeah, yeah. Maybe he should or she should say, "Well, I'm afraid it looks as though you have some form of cognitive decline." There are some interventions that use music and dance, and through this you can enhance your cognitive reserve, work on your frontal lobe. So language is key, especially when someone else is sending out a flyer for you. So it's really important that these wonderful people do understand that it has a physical, psychological, social element. We're not skipping around being swans, not at all in my medium. So the language is super clear. I keep clicking because I've got 2 minutes left. Um, yeah, and not a fan of suffering artists, not at all. You need to value yourself because we need you. Sustainability is key. I'm not afraid to put some money on the like an offer on the table. They need us. We are a profession. There needs to be more of that, of course. It's I don't have any credentials, just a lot of time on the floor. But we do need more kind of curriculum on what is arts and health. There's the other discussion. Is it arts and health? Should it not be arts health or arts well-being? What, why the divide? Um, yeah, and you are professionals, and we have to say that over and over again because there are a lot of people out there with a guitar and a big heart, and sometimes they do more harm than good. and that does kind of diminish a little bit our quest, as it were. And I really believe that we should stand tall and blow the trumpet that we are professional, we're out there, and we're a very worthy community of needed people. Got 30 seconds left. And I keep going, I just keep going. I'm on the floor. It's creative because I'm on the floor. Everyone, the beauty of pathology is there's no zip code. Like I have a wonderful problem. I'm going to Gran Canaria, and there will be a wonderful young man with autism and a young, healthy African woman in the same room. Why are they sitting together? How do we make sure that we're not othering? How do we work on that? That she's not there because she's part of a special group, and he's not there because he's part of it. So it's a constant creative challenge. I think that's me done.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew. Very, very much. I felt myself nodding throughout the conversation. And in particular, like when you pointed out like the aspect of quality that we really have here and the risk of that more harm can be done if like even though your intentions are good, like um I really had to yeah, I was nodding when you said that. And then you also pointed out how you very often, or one, like I think all of us know this, that we approach the converted, and we are in the room with those who already agree, and we just yes, yes, okay, yes, and we're patting each other on our shoulders. Um, I have one question, but also I invite the others to raise a question if they wanted to. Um, how would you approach those who are unconverted? Unconverted, like how would you approach someone who's new to the topic? You already said that it's a good approach to let them experience it, but let's say in a conversation, like from the top of your head, what would be your approach?
Again, evidence base, the whole idea of evidence base and movements like yours, when you use the word World Health Organization, 180 researches done around the value in the sense of its healing properties, but also in the value of the financial benefits. So it's a different language, of course, but that one needs to learn. But I think, yeah, it's really in that area, dropping names, big names like World Health that are completely in there. Culture Acts in Europe, the European Commission, there's a lot of standing. I used to try to prove that dance and music and a coffee and a cookie is the answer, but that doesn't work.
Very fair. Thank you so much, Andrew. At the moment, I don't see any hands, so I assume people might wait with their questions until the breakout room session.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for your presentation. Very much appreciated. And now I invite Ioana to the floor. Oh, no, I sorry, appeared at the same time. Um, I want to invite Ioana, who is one of our national call artists. She was selected in our first year. She's from Romania and will introduce her experience or will share her experience with you. Thank you.
Um, Thank you so much, Marie. Is this like okay with the screen sharing? I don't know
It's
what you're
perfect.
seeing because I
It's
don't see
perfect.
anything, just you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
I
great.
I see the screen now. I hope like in case you do not like, I think it's because I put the pin. If everyone clicks on see you on a screen, I think it works.
I think so.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. I just started as well my timer. Andrew is always an inspiration with that timekeeping. My name is Ona Turkan. I am a part of the team that worked with Karo Senior Center and the students from nursing and psychology together with Jona Hogman, Madarina Dan, and Joanna Hirschko. Our project, Community Cares, was funded by Culture and Health, Cluj Cultural Center, as well as supported by Carlos Senior and the university that Ioana Hirișcu is part of. It's called Community Cares in the sense that in Romanian it means taking care, but also to worry about something that you want to take care of. It started because we had this local need that is also national and global of thinking about a pilot of a community center. How do we care for each other outside of the paradigm of specific health institutions, but also like health treatments, that we also would need something else to keep our moral going, our joy and connection with the community that we're part of. We're a team that we have a past experience on working together in community-based interventions. Usually we're working with care, codependency, ambiguous loss and social stigma. We've been working with caregivers for two other projects, and that's how we kind of arrived to where we are now. We have a very interdisciplinary team. Ioana Hirișcu, that is working on medical sciences, and she has a PhD in clinical psychology, nursing and ethical research. Madalina Dan is a performer and choreographer, which was an amazing team member in our process, speaking about movement, as Andrew was saying. Joanna Hogman, that has an intersection of different disciplines, but is mostly trained in text and dramaturgy and facilitation. The students that came from the nursing department and psychology to find and identify other types of care and work along with us and participate to some of the exercises and also give their input to the center before. Of course, the Caro Senior Center that was very open to work with us, and they already have implemented some activities. They have social assistances that they have painting classes, like and they're trying to stimulate the community that lives there at the center. So that was already a plus because that's something that we do not see very often in my surroundings. And myself, that I'm a interdisciplinary artist. I do work with film mostly, but this time I looked at sound and also boxing and movement. We did not do any boxing in, in the senior center, but some of like the part of the movement that I'm trying to integrate. So our purpose was firstly to integrate our team into the existing activities at the center. They do already self-organize, doing lecture clubs, checks clubs, but also like they have a kineto club in the morning that is also run by someone that lives there. And that offered us a context for interaction and artistic expression. Of course, we wanted to see the connection between art and medicine and how that can contribute to the well-being of everyone in this existing ecosystem, but also was part of us to observe what are the dynamics that are already created and how we want to reshape that. Because even 130 people live together, there are some discrepancies on how they would like to engage to each other. We had to we wanted to co-create some workshops that are working with games and physical exercise, also looking at theater scenes, since they are already reading and having specific teams that they're discussing every Tuesday. So before the implementation, we went there a couple of times, participated in these activities. We made a presentation for the families of the beneficiaries that live at the center to have an informed consent and GDPR and a photography protocol with an ethical code. Ioana also, Hirișcu, was also evaluating the possible participants, looking at social and emotional loneliness, the European quality of life, the insomnia scale, and depression symptoms to see if after our program anything would change, because we definitely needed a base to go forward also with the Caro, but also looking at, we do need more evidence on how art and health intertwine and the benefits of using this further. So Caro would be one of the centers that use this, but maybe, we would have loved to have this kind of everywhere. So we wanted to gather some more information on that. Then we had workshops in October and November with the closing events inside of the center, and of course, a discussion with everyone that participates and evaluates our implementation. So during the implementation, we tried to we had some planning and also as well some improvisation because you have to be very aware of your surroundings to see how people respond, if they're tired, how they slept one night before, how is this energy. But usually most of our workshops were on movement. We tried to do some creative movements, but they're very used with mimicking. So we used that as much as we could. We tried to base every knowledge of the workshop before to expand the next workshop that we had together. Music was a key instrument because it was activating their long-term memory, and a lot of people were singers in their life, and a lot of people were loving dancing in their lives. So that was something that would create a context to move naturally. So we through that we try to break some group dynamics and make activities mostly to strengthen their larger group, which means of course some people were not interested to participate, but we will have to understand also what we would like to live after we leave. So if someone most of the people at Caro were having dementia. A lot of them were in palliative care, and there were also some focusing on specific mental illnesses and situations and conditions. So we wanted to bridge this gap between them on the fact that if I'm in a better cognitive situations, I do not engage with people that are not in my situation. So there were these dynamics that at one point through this workshop, we managed to make them communicate more and live together more. So what I wanted to say of what we've learned is that we would never know what we will work. And so we tried and tested different moves, different reactions, different sounds. What is important to know is to be ready to ask for help from nurses if needed. So it's very good to be calm, and sometimes some issues might not exist if someone signalizes it, but it's just important to make sure of that. So sometimes the beneficiaries would come and say, someone it's lost, can you help me out? So you go and check with calm, even though that might not be the situation. It's always great to make sure that everybody is safe in the place that you're having the workshop, but also outside of that. So after the implementation, we made a closing event to say goodbye, and we danced and sang and discussed and ate cookies. And I think because now we were very familiar with each other, was pretty lovely to see how the fact that we offered photos to kind of remember us was very impactful, and everybody thought that their event is specifically made for themselves. So 130 people living there, even though we had to say goodbye and try to make sure that we're gonna at one point visit them again. This was something very important for us, but also as well for them to make sure that this was an implementation, it was a project, and we might not come back because sometimes we tend not to close these projects and people are keep waiting for you to come and make another workshop. Or when are they coming again? That team was really interesting for them. So then, of course, we had a discussion with Caro about the project, the results, and trying to find other ways to implement together long-term these types of projects. The key takeaways, I already said some of them, but I think it's important to know well your team. I think the fact that we work together for different projects is already created some connection, and it's very important to know if they need support of any kind. Also to know where you need support if you need any. These types of activities can be very draining because they require a lot of energy and can also have some emotional impact. So it's always good to have someone for the safeguarding to be there with you. We had a psychotherapist in our team, but also the psychotherapist of the center that would sometimes come with activities with us. Again, of being aware of our surroundings, your energy level, as well as them, the people are participating, and to know when to stop, like pushing a workshop if it doesn't work, it actually can harm the relationship. Of course, people had permission and ability to leave, and sometimes actually it's lovely to help them leave the space and check that out. But I think it's important to also make sure that someone needs help, not just offer it, because this saving approach to that, it can as well be very harmful. I think it's important to not give up. Sometimes we needed more time to understand the space better, the boundaries that you or other might have. But the ones-on-ones were really priceless because you would never know how people react to this presence. So if the fact that you're there, you're listening, you make sure you are listening and you're present, it changes a lot in the big workshop. So we managed to spend time before and after we finished the workshop with them. So I have some 24 seconds, but what I wanted to say is that some of the beneficiaries are visually impaired and have difficulty to hear, and they refuse any kind of support. But finding ways to break out of that was crucial. For example, we brought instruments and music was key for us. And when they started playing instruments, we put them headphones and microphones. They could hear themselves and could also play like a small concert for the others. So that was something that as well broke this barrier that was not very specific. Okay, you have something we need to fix. It just gives them another method to hear each other. So, and also ask permission before touching, taking someone's hair for an activity, moving someone's chair, because even if they understand or they're not aware, they really you understand that that's very important. Yes, I think that was pretty much it because I'm out of time. But if there are any other questions, would love to answer. Um, I cannot hear you, Marie. You're muted, but also I feel like I did
If
not
there's
manage to
something big you
stop my
wanted to
sharing.
share, please add. Like, I hope I don't want to cut you short in case you still want to share something.
Um, I think that what we did not manage to do was that we did not ask feedback every time. We kind of assumed that people will remember us, but because the relationship was going great for a month and then everything, it doesn't happen like that. And
Yeah.
also to make sure that you understand that their mood, it's not something that you can influence. Some people were looking for a loved one because they just realized they lost someone. Some people couldn't sleep well. So to understand that it's not just your workshop that may have changed their mood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important to have in mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for sharing all the other learnings that you had. And I think it's in particular important to share, like, I put in like big quotation mark, like the little things, like as you say, like when you announce when you move someone's chair, or like when if you want to touch someone, that you communicate that in advance. Thank you so much for sharing. Again, I invite the audience also to ask questions, and please raise your digital hand if in case you do have a question. Um, I was wondering personally when you pointed out that the patients need to be safe, of course, but that made me wonder that the artists need to be safe as well. And then I was wondering, like how if you just want to share, how do you make sure that you are safe? Like in several ways, actually, also that you are being cared for, and that you like, how do you deal with issues that are brought to you? Yeah, how do you deal with that?
We used to have meetings in the small team after each intervention, and then to, of course, take a day off and plan the other one. So I think that was part of our kind of teamwork, but all of us have been worked with in this kind of situation before, not exactly this one. So we kind of already knew what's going on, but definitely can trigger something in you for sure. If you think about, I don't know, taking care of someone close in your family or a memory as well. So we had the psychotherapists there if there was anything, but I do think rest, it's very important because you think you can do so much, but 1 hour of a workshop to keep 25 people engaged and then break on another 25 people, like our choreographer was sweating after 1 hour. So we were just like trying to take a break, have some lunch, and then, proceed again. And I
Yeah.
think as much as you go with the process, you get more used to know everyone there and be like, okay, would you like to paint today? Can we do it together? May I take your hand? And then they start painting if you offer them the space.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Ioana. I don't see any hands at the moment. So I assume again, like we will put that into the second part. So yeah, truly, thank you so much for sharing. Very highly appreciated. And now I am very happy to introduce Rebecca and welcome her to the stage. Thank you for joining us today, Rebecca. Maybe you could also briefly introduce yourself, and then I will start your presentation in a second.
Thank you, Marie. I've actually handed over my presentation to Maria because I don't trust myself with clicking the right button and stuff like that. I'm Rebecca Swift, and I'm in role as the creative director of Entelechy Arts. Entelechy has been around, well, Entelechy is ancient Greek, and one of its translation is making possibilities real. Entelechy has been around for about 35 years, so it's a long-term association organization, a sort of living art, if you like. We walk alongside each other and our communities throughout our lives and the different ups and downs of our lives. I started out in visual arts and then went into theatre and physical theatre and dance. Was an actor for a long time. Would still love to do a bit of acting now I'm getting older. And I sort of, come with an artistic sensibility to my role. I'm very interested in organizations as well and how creativity can help organizations reimagine their infrastructures and, their teams and things like that. So Entelechy is currently at the moment very consciously moving towards what's called a community-owned organisation with the leadership of the most impacted. So our arts in healthcare program sits within this wider context. Now that's quite a mouthful, but as succinctly as I can be, it means that we're really sort of looking at how from top down and inside out, people with lived experience who are also experts and leaders and pioneers are in role now. So the chair of our organization is the disabled pioneer, activist, artist, change maker, Jess Tom. And so from top down, and Jess is having a massive impact on how we begin to revision our organization. This painting is done by Hannah James, who's our associate director. Hannah is a disabled artist and dance artist. And Hannah sometimes paints to capture her experience of movement, as opposed to always using words to capture movement, so that there's another way of garnering evidence that isn't always scientific, but has a sort of sensory element, sensory data to it. And this wonderful sentence here, we believe some of the most exciting and challenging art is forged from the collision of different worlds and life experiences. Well, of course, health and art care settings are the places for that. Hospitals and care homes are very much reflective of that. But I have to say, if I'm honest, a bit like what Andrew was saying earlier, it's hugely challenging to be an artist in the midst of that and to hold that complexity. My delight at the richness of that, just about overrides my fear. And this, I say that to this day. So I think it's very understandable that there's a very extraordinary set of skill set that emerges from this work. Next slide, please. So our care home work is called Walking Through Walls. And here we have one of the artists and one of the residents singing together. We've been in this care home for 10 years. So if we can keep sustaining the funding, it's always a long term. We'd love to have an office in that care home. We'd love to be there every day. And we'd love to sort of work from inside out. And I know of one project in London that has managed that, not us, it's the Spitz Charitable Trust. They actually, and it really does shape the artists when they're there more often. And it's locally rooted because, as we know, care homes can all be, especially, I don't know if this is the same in Europe, but in the UK, they're privately run chains and they all look the same, with the same furniture and the same pictures up on the walls. And it's how we begin to really listen to the stories of the elders and the sense of the neighborhood, streets in which they were born, the history, the different cultures that have settled there. So for this particular neighborhood of Southwark near Elephant and Castle, very much placemaking is the biggest, I think, one of the biggest Latin American communities in the whole of Europe. Maybe the world, I don't know, I have to look that up, fact check that, but certainly very large. So of course Spanish enters into our sessions and salsa and other songs, and then we're guided by questions, always questions that we never get to answer fully, and we change those questions, and we have could say a manifesto of questions. So it's like an inquiry-led approach. And I find it fascinating how many universities are plugged into. And I think that comes back to what Andrew was saying about allyship. You know, we're plugged into many universities, have many relationships. We have many doctorate students on placement writing their thesis on the work, because these are places of lived experience, knowledge production. And it's how can that be as powerful and as valuable in the world of research as academia? And I think that is beginning to be looked at somewhere, slowly. So those are some of our questions. I love the one, how can we be together? Because I think that is the biggest one, probably. And I could look at the other ones, but I won't because it'll take forever. So we'll go into the next slide. Thanks, Marie. Yeah, you're right. So no, well intuited. So this drawing on the right is by one of our dance artists, Kai Thomas, wonderful practitioner. Yeah, and the painting by Hannah. So that comes down to other ways of capturing, and also what IOANA was talking about, or IOANA, you know, how do we process this? We're left with stuff often that we take home with us, and often it creeps up, usually when you're just going to bed. And you know, so it's interesting. And how can we find other ways to process things too? So some of our artists really love drawing, and we're dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of loss in these settings. It's not always happiness is lovely, but it's not always the healthy thing, if you like. It's the processing of difficult emotions, and it's also the wellspring of great art. You know, the best theatre productions have every mixture of who we are as human beings. So this is a tribute to one of our residents who passed away, and because we're there long term, we're experiencing loss and grieving and losing people. And that's a big part of everybody's life in the care home, and our life as artists, and the carers particularly. And then here we are, a manifesto of what I think care homes could be and are, really, if we could just, as artists, help to uncover what is naturally there. So care homes are a treasure chest of stories, a place of journey and life thresholds, often, well, always a place of refugeeism, change and dislocation. The word lost comes up a lot, how people feel lost. an environment where there is a unique potential for care and art to inform and enrich in each other, not be one above the other, but actually have an equal value, not being one secondary to the other. A place of embodiment and sensory literacy within care and art. So sensory literacy, embodiment, and Andrew probably know this really well, dance and movement and things that are not always to do with words, often are relegated to the bottom. Actually, it's such a powerful, rich area of communication, particularly in palliative care. And it's, again, how can we advocate for that? We haven't even begun to uncover its potential in learning and understanding. An opportunity to try something new, to keep learning, growing. So taking a risk, you know, building up enough trust that we can actually jump into the unknown. The potential for a currency of love that can humanize many aspects of our society. So the more present that part of our journey of life, the more present residents are and carers are in the world outside, in healthy ways, the more they can bring back and contribute back. And there's a big currency of love that emerges, I think, and we're not allowed to use that word often, especially in the UK, but actually it's true. An opportunity for repair, a place of knowledge and thought, both embodied and lived. I've already touched upon that. I think it's a real university with a difference. One senior carer said he feels working in a care home environment is like a library of human experience. It's like he's taking metaphorical and symbolic books out of his extraordinary library. The best audience to share things with. So as artists, we evolve and develop with them. We get to try things out together. A place of passion and emotional expression. So I'm reverting back to the fact that the arts aren't sanitized or cleaned up to be palatable, which can be a risk in the arts and health world. It's about allowing the rawness of expression, the vibrancy of that, and the skill to hold that. I could look at plays like Macbeth or Shakespeare. I mean, my goodness, and that is about being human, an extraordinary place of diversity. So next session. So I think IOANA's touched on this, creativity as deinstitutionalization. And I'm probably reiterating things here, but we're working within big institutions with strong structures, some of them really necessary to deliver a very tough work task, often under very tight resources. And being a carer, I just have so much admiration for that profession. Again, not valued enough, both in terms of pay and recognition of what they really do contribute when that's a good carer. So, and yet some elements of the institutions can ossify and become defensive and rigid. And in doing so, people aren't seen as people, and everything gets a bit factory-like, and it's down to a particular schedule, and everything has to be done in a certain kind of idea of what time is. And so we're trying to work with other temporalities as artists and allowing other notions of time to exist. So working from a foundation of relationships, belonging and trust for all of us. And I mean that all of us. It's enhancing the residents, artists, cleaners, carers, family members. It's in the space in between all of us. Building community through repetition and regularity of sessions. And so the privilege of being there for a long time is that repetition, and you get to see something grow that isn't possible unless you've been there for a long time. Being with, allowing creativity and connection to emerge from the mundane, the everyday, deep hanging out, term borrowed from anthropology, nothing in particular moments. But then conversely, doing the opposite of that at times, working with structure, directive moments, themes, trying something out, taking a risk. Even as an artist, sometimes you need to stand back, but sometimes you need to come forwards and go, let's try this. Let's see if we can all take a risk. So you're moving between those two registers all the time, and that's quite a skill. And sometimes you don't get it right, which is fine. actually. Giving time for beginnings, so the threshold time of arriving, because people will have been in their rooms all day navigating all sorts of challenges in their lives and loss and health challenges. And so the threshold into arriving into a sense of group is like walking a long distance. So allowing the chaos of beginnings, giving it space and allowing it to be a creative moment in its own right. Sometimes the pianist will play, in our case, the pianists will play to those mundane, those utilitarian, pedestrian movement. And greeting each person as they arrive, allowing them the choice as to where they're going to sit as well, because often they don't get that choice. They're just wheeled in and plonked. And the same goes with endings. People could be suddenly whisked off because there's a shift in rota, and actually arguing for the fact that people actually often need to linger at the end of the session because it takes the whole session to arrive together somewhere. Care aesthetics. This is a wonderful term. Do look them up. It's the Care Lab, led by James Thompson and his team, wonderful team at Manchester University. There's a lovely podcast on care aesthetics by James Thompson. I think it's on Careful Thinking or something like that, Thinking Carefully. But it's looking at the equity of value between the movement aesthetic and the aesthetics of care and art, and actually of them being both equal and not access and care not being secondary to the art, aesthetically, if you like. And I find that such a useful lens in which to view our work, because obviously the artists are also enacting actions, gestures of care, making somebody comfortable, maybe brushing the crumbs off somebody's top with a little brush, to the sound of music or whatever, that kind of thing. Cultivating co-creation where residents sense and know they are giving back to society. So they're not the only beneficiaries, society are also mutual beneficiary, mutual exchange, and we're benefiting too. And creative planning meetings. So all our creative planning meetings, we have one per term, are with residents or a core group of residents. It takes them a while to know what a meeting is because they're not used to being consulted. And often memory comes into play. So often our creative planning meetings have a bit of a sing-along. And wouldn't that be lovely if meetings at work, or especially a trustee meeting, started with a song, because they're terribly formal. And beginning to what is a meeting? But they get to co-shape the work. They share with us their thoughts, and some of those thoughts are quite absurdist, and they're wonderful. So yeah, receiving a reciprocity, learning from residents, growing from their stories, etc. Next slide. And this continues. So space for the quality of creative process. So arguing for process, because we live in an output-driven world that has to evidence impact output, like a production line. The cultural sector industries is just as bad as anywhere else. And there's a huge amount of imagined and real pressure on the artist. It's about really protecting ourselves from that, because it's the quality of creative process that gives birth to great art, and allows for true co-creation. Sorry, I can't say those words. That the language is important. So discovering agency where people can take creative risks and grow, allowing the arts to hold the spiritedness of who we are, the small moment, the tiny moments, the micro moments that we can so easily rush past if we're a bit output driven. And often carers are not given time to also explore because they're in quite a big schedule of what they have to do. Often it's these tiny moments that you think are really not relevant end up being the best art ever. Equally, duets. So you think you have to engage 25 people or 20 people, and it's all this pressure on ticking boxes and engaging with lots of people. And actually, sometimes in a group, give space for the one-to-one, because a lot of our residents fed back to us that they love watching other people flourish. And there's something about a duet or a one-to-one or a trio and giving that space for it that can impact and ripple out and affect the whole atmosphere of the group or the whole atmosphere on the corridor in which you're improvising when you're doing bedroom side work. I think I've touched on these already. So yeah, I've touched on those. So we can go to the next slide, knowing that time is of the essence. So nature and place, the right to roam. Oh God, in London, that's so needed. A lot of care homes have tiny back gardens. And some care homes have bigger grounds, but it's very rare that nature becomes part of people's lives, and the deinstitutionalization of people's lives, and the right to roam, non-institutionalized walking and exploring. I think I'll go left. No, I'll go right. I'll stand here for a bit. And it also changes your relationship to groupishness, because often the work we do is about group in a space. But here people can have a sense of the group in the background. So we worked with a lovely sculptor, weaver, Shane Maltner here, seen in one of the photographs, who just created a sense of place through light touch, bits of calico around a tree, and then people were able to roam away and come back to the group and be on the edges of a group more. And next slide. This is the care for artists. So team-led collaborative approach. No artist works alone. A team of 3 work together in palliative care. Close working relationship with the activities coordinators, sharing expertise. So you're creating almost like a third micro-organization in between all our organizations. In hospitals, that would be speech therapy, physiotherapy, OTs, and the matron. Internal roundtables, bringing carers and artists together within the care home and having philosophical discussions together, all sorts of discussions, if you can drag carers away from their work task. Weekly team check-ins after a session. 3 times a year, artists improvise together through dance, music making, sound work, partly to experience what it's like to be on the receiving end of the work that they offer, but also it creates this extraordinary sense of ensemble and bond and solidarity, which people sense. And so it's a sort of atmosphere that people can step into. Nurturing presence, responsiveness when working with high degree of uncertainty, supporting us to soften into chaos, legitimizing our own vulnerability, allowing, because vulnerability is shared, it's always located in the beneficiary, but actually we're all vulnerable. And so how can we share in that in different ways and talk about that? Allowing for not knowing, because negative capability, as the poet Keats said, is actually where poetry emerges. And to draw from embodied performance skills. So we're performers a lot of the time because we're holding the gaze. Lots of people are, particularly in hospitals, there's such a thoroughfare. You'll turn around, you'll be doing a duet with somebody in a bed, and you'll notice that at the nurse's station, there's suddenly an audience, and people are kind of healing from watching you. So you're having to hold the gaze of others while doing this work. Incredible skill. Weave micro breaks and still moments into the work for all. Documentation, we've talked about processing the work through drawing, writing, and poetry. External group clinical supervision is really important, and it's impossible to get funding for. Twice a year is enough, but it is so important. And that's we're still trying to get funding for that. And health and safety flyer, which focuses on our feelings as well as physical safety. Create an easy read flyer for carers to show what we're doing. And then we can be in a mixed group of artists, and somebody, as a white artist, I might not be quite aware of a remark that could be quite triggering and racist for my colleague who's Black, because often I'm not aware because I'm not on the receiving end. So actually learning to be aware of the different thing, or there may be a resident due to their dementia who's outrageously, Eros energy is great, and flirting and all of this is part of being theatrical, part of theatre ensemble, but sometimes it goes over boundaries, and being aware when some of your colleagues are feeling vulnerable there as well, and working with those boundaries. And I'll stop there. Probably more to say, but I think I've come to the end. Oh yeah, there's that one too. Yeah, sorry. But I think I've come to the end. This is an artist talking about the messiness. Kit is a famous artist, but even Kit has to let go of their methodologies. Fantastic. And I think that's an important thing.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was very eye-opening, I think, in many ways. And before I will just reflect on two things, I would also like to once more invite you to come up with questions if you want to ask anything right now. And also Ioana and Andrew, because you were speaking at the beginning, if you want to reflect on something now, please feel free to do so. And thank you so much, Rebecca. I think in particular, what I really took away from this is the importance of keeping different perspectives as well. And I think we're always very aware of our own perspective, of course. And I have the impression that many of our audience, or many people from our audience, are now working in care homes, even, and still we have this awareness of what care homes are for us or for myself, but what are they for others, and which like I know how I perceive things, but it's very hard to know how others perceive those care homes in those situations. And we will not know if we do not ask and if we do not have those conversations.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm really taking away. Yeah, time is running indeed. So
Can I add something? May I?
yes, please
Thank you very
do.
much, Rebecca. Absolutely. So what I got from that is something that. So I always say that Parkinson's saved me from me. I don't have Parkinson's, but it saved me from me because I was in this golden cage. And what I got from Rebecca is this unholiness about our creative craft, like the nitty and gritty and getting down there and the micro and the macro and the and just letting it go, let it do its thing, because in our education it's all ego based and build yourself up, at least in the ballet world. And then suddenly being on the floor with people that will tell you that you smell or that's not good, it's just such a wonderful shift. And so that I got that very much from Rebecca's talk, the micro, the macro, the unholiness, and how creative that can be. So thanks for sharing that.
Thanks, Andrew. Yes, it's very much the roots of what art is, as you described as well, and it's got somehow cut off from its roots in
Yeah.
our society, and this is art in the real and working with the raw sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's an honest space. You can't get away with anything.
Indeed, yeah. So big thank you again to the three of you, actually. As we're getting towards the end of the first part, and as from experience, apparently I can tell that a few of the people in the audience are about to leave us, maybe. I would just like to share what's coming up next, like from the Culture and Health platform. We have more of the Artists Roundtables, one in February and one in May. We will also have another one in October, but as that's far away, we will still decide on the topic. The one in February is on community-based settings, and the one in May is on education youth-focused spaces. We have quite a few training and capacity buildings coming up, and the list is still growing. Please have a look at our website, because here I'm just naming three examples of what's coming up. Next week, we have an online book preview from the new book of Professor Daisy Fancourt. Then our Swedish member provides a training on bibliographic tools developed by a hospital librarian. And then very important, I think, organized by our Irish partner, is how to prepare a film project pitch. Yeah, very interesting, I think. And then big exclamation mark for our open calls. They also will be published on our website, so please make sure you save the link. And then, of course, we have these conferences coming up, one in February, organized in also like with the care project in mind. And then we have the big platform conference in September in Vienna. Now, Christiana, could you maybe mute yourself? That would be super kind. I will now ask Sarah to end the recording as our first part is over. Thank you so much.